Hello and welcome back to the I Like Numbers and F1 podcast. Today I am talking about Saturday from the Japanese Grand Prix and talking about it as if the Sunday from the Japanese Grand Prix hasn't existed and anything up until this point, which will include FP1 at Miami, especially so because this is recorded before this, actually half an hour before. Let's see if we can get it all done before. Unlikely. However, it's unlikely if I don't start talking about it, so I'm going to do so. Starting off with FP3. The standings are as follows in reverse order. Fernando Alonso, Stroll, Perez, Bottas, Sainz, Colapinto, Albon, Behrman, Ocon, Lindblad, Lawson, and Hajar, everyone outside the top 10. The top 10 were Gasly, Bortoleto, Verstappen, Hulkenberg, Norris, Hamilton, Piastri, with Leclerc P3, Russell P2, and Antonelli P1. Final practice session before we got into qualifying. I realised I forgot to watch the highlights again, so I'm going to forget about what happened in it. Mercedes looking good. Ferrari look like they're a little bit better after the Friday's running. McLaren look like they've fallen back a little bit. Audi seem like they're still up there fighting and challenging for the points. Max and Red Bull seem about where they are as usual. Gasly in that Alpine is improved. RB are still hanging on just below the points. Haas have fallen a little bit. Williams have gone back to where they usually are. Colapinto's back down the order after China. And Cadillac are ahead of Aston Martin again. If I remember correctly, there wasn't much to this one. To be honest, I don't even think I watched the highlights in the first place. Anyway, it's not important because the important session was qualifying. Starting with Q1, Lance Stroll, Fernando Alonso, Bottas, Perez, Behrman, and Albon were the 6 drivers knocked out. Big talking point there, obviously Behrman being knocked out after making it to both Q3s in China and Q3 in Australia, I believe. But either way, was not knocked out in Q1 in any previous session and has been here by a tenth, basically. 10th and a half. Very, very poor from Behrman there. I think he had a mistake on his first lap. I don't think he was compromised on his second lap, but just couldn't make it through. Albon had problems, to quote, not in the corners, and wasn't the one that got through. That was Sainz, obviously thanks to Behrman's issues. Cadillacs have managed to beat both Astons for the first time. I didn't think this would happen this early, but very good job to them. On the other hand, a very poor job for Aston at the engine supplier Honda's home race to be a back row of the grid. But yeah, not much more. Good job from Perez to beat out Bottas. And well done for Sainz being the first Williams this year to make it through to Q2. Speaking of, let's go to Q2. And the 6 drivers knocked out were Sainz, Colapinto, Lawson, Hulkenberg, Ocon, and Max Verstappen. It's happened immediately. Max is out in Q2. How has he not made it to Q3 more than he's made it to Q3? obviously not including the sprint qualifying. That's a stat and a half. Yeah, missed out by a tenth of a second. Almost was fine. Hulkenberg came across the line, didn't improve. Lindblad came across the line and did improve, making Max P11. Sainz obviously not able to get much higher in 16th, 4 tenths behind Colapinto. Colapinto was a disappointing one, obviously 8 tenths away from his teammate. Would have thought he would be a little bit closer. It is his first time around Japan. However, it was his first time around China and he did pretty well there. So, well, it's Arvid's first time around as well, and he's doing pretty well in that RB. Likewise, Arvid's teammate Lawson down in V14, not entirely end of the world stuff. If we look back to just China, where Lawson was nowhere near the points in either qualifying session and yet ended up with some of the most points in that midfield battle. So it's not quite the end of the world, but he does need to work on his qualifying if he wants to try and score more points throughout the rest of the season. Hulkenberg, again, qualifying not really his specialty, as we saw from last season. However, you would expect him to be a little bit closer to his teammate. He's about 4 tenths off in Q2. Would have thought he'd be a little bit closer, but not quite, and pays the price for it, the P13. And Ocon not really capitalising on the Behrman Q1 knockout. Obviously beating Behrman for like the first time this season. Did my mic go quiet there? Hold on. No. Yes. It's going quiet. Is it going quiet? It shouldn't be going quiet because the microphone's supposed to be my headphones, which are in my ears. Oh, it's using my.
For God's sake. Okay, now it's my headphones. That's. Oh well. What was I saying? Yeah, Ocon not quite capitalizing on Behrman's Q1 knockout and only making it to P12. And last but not least, in Q2, Max Verstappen. Quite a shock there from the Dutchman, not able to get a lap time quick enough to go through. Like, he's over a tenth behind Lindblad, who got 10th in that session. He's 1.2 seconds behind Antonelli, who was P1 in that session. So, yeah, very, very much a shock from the Red Bull there. And for the second time this season, Hadjar out qualifies him. But this time on pure pace. Wow. On to Q3 then. Lindblad in P10, Gabby Bortoletto P9, Hadjar P8, Gasly P7, Hamilton P6, Lando Norris P5, Charles Leclerc P4, Piastri P3, Russell P2, and Kimi Antonelli with his second pole in a row on pole position. Very good job from him to get pole again. Couldn't improve. Rude. I don't even know if you've heard that or not because my mic switched and it might not have picked that up. Anywho. Did not improve on his second run. Likewise with his teammate and McLaren's, Leclerc did improve. He was looking on for a very good lap, but lost it all in the final sector. And everyone else didn't. Not really many on the top of the top drivers improved on their second run, which was very anticlimactic. But Antonelli doing the most that he needed and getting pole position by 3/10 of a second. No comeback from George there. So, on to the individual teams. And then McLaren. Very good job from them, actually getting ahead of the Ferraris in a main qualifying session. Again, obviously, I believe he did so in Australia anyway, against Hamilton, but yeah, able to do it and get P3 this time around with Piastri. We'll see what they can do. Look like they're on for their first podium of the season if they can start the race. Hopefully for their sakes they can. But yeah, very good job from McLaren. Even better one by Mercedes, of course, to get the third front row of the season. 3 from 3. And it just is going all their way. Well, I say that. George Russell was close to being pushed down to the second row by Piastri, only a 10th in it. Not even that, 600ths. And yeah, a little bit closer to the rest of the field than George would have liked. Red Bull are a lot closer. In fact, they're in the rest of the field. Hadjar beaten by Gasly and Verstappen knocked out. They couldn't improve on their issues that they had in the first practice sessions, and they paid for the price. They paid the price for it with Verstappen by getting knocked out in Q2, and Hadjar couldn't do much in Q3 whilst he was there. He was beat by Gasly by almost 3/10 of a second. Couldn't improve on his second lap, whereas Gasly did improve right at the end of the session. Yeah, Red Bull are firmly in the midfield. Ferrari are not. P4 and P6, a little bit disappointing from them. However, they're still in prime position for a good start. I am worried about McLaren starts because when they do start, they have been pretty decent. So if Oscar starts, it might be side by side with Charles going into turn 1, or worse for the Ferrari. But we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully, we can get past and into the lead because that would be nice. On to Williams. Nice for them that they can get into Q2 for the first time. However, it did come at the expense of a mistake from Behrman, so not quite on pure pace yet. They've still got a couple of big upgrades that they need first before that can happen. But as long as they keep improving, they are going to get there eventually. RB are firmly in the midfield, getting one driver through to Q3 and one firmly in Q2. Would have expected Lawson to be a little bit higher up, as I said, but overall a very good result from the team in qualifying. Very poor one from Aston, getting the last row on the grid by a comfortable margin. Stroll 3/10 behind Alonso, who was 3/10 behind Bottas. Never really looked like challenging the rest of the field. On to Haas. Ollie Behrman, obviously out in Q1, and Hajar Ocon only able to get to P12. It's a decent result from Ocon, obviously, to get into P12. But very, very disappointing one from Behrman to be down in P18 and knocked out of Q1. Long recovery drive for him in the race. But it'll be interesting to see where he can get to. Audi look like they're on for some good points. Obviously, Bortoleto getting into Q3 and P9. Hulkenberg a little bit lower in P13, but a very good result from them. Looking like they are where their practice pace was putting them. Alpine getting through to Q3 with Gasly in 7th, firmly best of the rest. Disappointing again from Colapinto down in 15th. We'll have to see if he'll have to try and pick up the pace if he wants to help the team score points. Because at the moment they are lacking in the points department compared to the other midfield teams, and Gasly can't score all of them. Last but not least, we have Cadillac. Getting ahead of both Aston Martins for the first time is a very good achievement. Didn't expect it to happen quite so early in the season, but had Aston been where they should have been and not bottled the performance of the car, then it wouldn't have quite come so early. But it's still a good achievement from the team. Still a little bit off. They're about just over a second away from Behrman in P18 with Perez 19th. So it's still got a little bit of pace to find, a lot of pace to find, but it's a step in the right direction. And then obviously individual drivers. Oh, get rid of the Cadillac image. There we go. Stroll, back of the grid. Disappointing. Well, not really. 3/10 is about where he's been to Alonso. But yeah, this one's more on the team. Obviously, 3/10 is in the midfield. 3/10 would not be ideal, but at the back of the grid, it's sort of okay. But they're at the back of the grid, so not much. Stroll could have done more. Yeah, it's roughly where you would expect him to be. Alonso, just same again, really, as where you'd expect him to be. It's a shame that Aston are so slow, but they need to find something. Otherwise, they're going to be at the back of the grid for the whole season, fighting the likes of Cadillac with Valtteri Bottas and Perez. Bottas attempts behind his teammate, very good. A little bit behind where I thought he would be. I thought he's a little bit better around the circuit, but with your teammate is not something to be too down about. And obviously, they are a little bit off behind the rest of the midfield, but it's progress. A little bit further back from where they were in China, I think, but we'll see what they can do in the race. Perez, obviously the better driver in the Cadillac in qualifying. Not much to say. I think he had finally a clean qualifying and showed that he was able to beat his teammate. So if they can get more clean qualifyings, they could probably start Checo showing that once he gets clean qualifying, he can beat his teammate, and once they find performance, he can be the one to challenge the rest of the midfield. Behrman, very shocked performance from him in qualifying. I don't remember what happened. He was just slow, made a couple of mistakes, I think, and yeah, make a couple of mistakes around Suzuka, and you're out of qualifying. Going to be a tall order for him to get anywhere in the race, but he's been the star. He's been the star midfielder alongside Gasly this season. So if anyone can do it, it can be him. And Alex, the last one knocked out in Q1. Good job, ish. Obviously a little bit behind his teammate, but not anything to worry about. It's like just over a tenth. That's where do you expect your teammates to be? Obviously, both of them would have been out in Q1 had Behrman not been knocked out, so it's as expected. Sainz beating Alex for the second time in qualifying, I believe. Speaking of, Carlos getting through to Q2. He was on the pace with a couple of the other drivers in Q1. A couple others doing 30 points nines, Ocon and Colapinto. However, in Q2, he was 4 tenths behind Colapinto and even further behind Q3, about 9 tenths. So still a little bit of pace to find to get through to Q2 on merit, but starting P16 is always going to be better than starting P17. Not really, don't necessarily matter too much how you get there. P15 for why did that? Hold on. P15 for Franco Colapinto. Would have expected him to be a little bit closer to, well, not expected, but wanted Colapinto to be a little bit closer to Gasly. You would want, you'd hope him to be. He was about 4 tenths off in Q1 and obviously 8 tenths off in Q2. He did improve 3 tenths across the session between Q1 to Q2, but everyone improved a little bit more and he was left a little bit by himself in P15. Lawson, a little bit further back once again in qualifying. Something he needs to work on if he wants to get more points, as I said back in China. But if he can do another performance like China, he will get points. It's a little bit like the Hulkenberg from the beginning of last season, where he kept getting knocked out in Q1, but thanks to strategy and pace, he was able to get like P5s and obviously his P3 in Silverstone. So Liam being the Hulkenberg of this season, not really anything you want to do, because if you start higher up and still do the same performance, you're obviously going to do a lot better in the race and score more points. So he could, had he qualified where Arvid was, he might be able to challenge for front of the midfield, but starting where he is, he probably will be on the cusp of getting points in the race. Nico finishing P13, a little bit behind his teammate. 4 tenths in Q2 and right on him in Q1. Don't quite know what happened in Q2. I think he lost a little bit of pace. His Q2 time was a little bit slower than his Q1 time. So, and obviously Bortoleto found 4 attempts. So there was good reason to believe that Hulkenberg could have got through to Q3, but not quite. We'll have to see what he can do from Q13 and obviously whether he will start the race or not. Esteban Ocon getting through to P12. I think the best qualifying position for him all season, which is a nice thing to say. Obviously, something he'll want to hear. Can he convert that into points tomorrow? It might be a little bit of the tall order with the cars that he's got ahead of him. He might be able to get Lindblad and Bortoleto, but Verstappen's ahead of him as well. And Verstappen's not going to be one to easily let someone pass, even if they are quicker. So, could be a tall order to get some points, but it's possible for Ocon. Max, on the other hand, should be able to get into the points, but I don't know with that Red Bull. That Red Bull is like it is horrible. Just absolutely no pace whatsoever. And yeah, Verstappen out in Q2. There's like nothing to say. He's slow. Couldn't fix the problems that they had on Friday, and it's left them squandered for positions in qualifying. Arvid Lindblad back in Q3 for the second. No, I don't think he even got. He might not even have got to Q3 in Australia. He might have just had a mega start. Q3 for Lindblad, very good job from him. Be interesting to see if he can get some points in the race. He did only qualify a tenth behind Bortoleto. However, they were 3 tenths behind Hadjar. So they're a little bit slower than the cars around them, in front of them. But they could fend off uh, the cars behind them to score more points with Lindblad, which is always a good thing, especially in that midfield fight when anyone could be the ones getting points. Same for Bortoleto. Bortoleto, a very good job from him to get into Q3, P9, see if he can score some points like he did back in Australia. Beating his teammate is very good job from him. Not much more to say apart from a good job. Continue that performance. Hadjar, good job on beating Max, but that Red Bull couldn't allow him to get any higher than P8. 3 tenths behind Gasly is still insane. You'd expect if someone told you that Red Bull are going to fall back, you're like, they probably fall back of the front runners, not into the midfield. Like they're not with the midfield; they are firmly in it. So I I don't believe it's just power unit. I believe it's. I mean, from what Max has said, it's not good to drive. So it's got fundamental issues with the aero balance as well. So it's definitely not just their powertrain. So I don't know. Like, rip up the car, bring a new one for Miami, I guess. Uh, but whether they can do that with the cost cap or not, I don't know. Yeah, Gasly, P7, front of the midfield. Very good drive from him. Almost beating Lewis, about 10th and a quarter behind. So yeah, very good job from the Frenchman. Should be able to score some good points in the race and start challenging Ollie for that best of the midfield position in the championship. Lewis, back of the front pack, but not by much. Only a tenth and a half to his teammate in fourth. A little bit more to the guys in front, likes of the Mercedes and Piastri, but that Ferrari is mega off the line, so he should be able to get a couple of positions and see where he can go from there. Lando in P5. A little bit on the back foot from his Friday running, not able to get everything that they wanted. And that shows 3 tenths behind his teammate. Had he got the running that he was supposed to, he probably would have been there in fourth ahead of Charles. Obviously, 4 thousandths of a second behind. So it's not entirely out of reach for Lando, but he obviously on the back foot should probably be around here in the race with the Ferraris start and McLaren's a better race pace or equal expected race pace. Charles getting P4, same practice image because for whatever reason race qualifying image was Lewis. There was 2 images of Lewis for whatever reason instead of an image of Charles. The caption even said it was supposed to be Charles, but it was Lewis. Weird. P4 could have had a better qualifying lap. He did have purple in Q2 and was looking good in Q3, but fell away in that final sector. And Charles not happy, obviously, with the regulations in qualifying. And yeah, just probably affecting his performance, not able to drive the car how he wants. And his results show P4 3 tenths behind Piastri and 7 tenths behind Antonelli. Obviously, that second gap a little bit more affected by the performance of the Ferrari and then the performance of Charles, but it's still not ideal for him and Ferrari. What is ideal though is P3 for Oscar. Very good job from him. And if that McLaren can start, looks like he's on for a good shout of a podium. And obviously getting points for the first time in something other than a sprint. Not much more. Very good job. Beat his teammate. Got P3. Very good job. George Russell, I believe there were some comments from after qualifying of Russell having issues again. However, 3 tenths is quite a big gap, even with issues. So I think Kimi would still have beaten Russell anyway. Actually, going to check that. He was struggling with oversteer, tyre overheating, and having to adjust his driving around to find that lap time. Had to take a good chunk of the front wing flap out of the car, which wasn't ideal, and the setup adjustment they had was a lot more dramatic than they thought. So yeah, George obviously not happy with the car, but whether that's actually something there or if that is where he is compared to Kimi, and obviously drivers trying to find excuses anywhere saying anything. But you never know with these cards. It could literally just be something that they didn't expect. So George P2, still a good job to get on the front row, of course. And Kimi Antonelli, second pole in a row. If he can start well, he's on for a second win in a row. First time that would have happened. First time that a new time winner would win second time in a row since Charles in 2019, I believe. That sounds about right. So, yeah, on for a good result in the race to on Sunday. But what does the race look like? Well, the expected strategies on from Pirelli are a one stop from medium to hard or soft to medium from lap 15 onwards if you're on the medium and lap 13 if you're on the soft. There is the potential to do a one stop to soft medium, but you'd have to extend that soft stint longer than you would the mediums if you were to go medium hard. Other than that, there's a couple options for the two stop or starting hards, but probably unlikely that anyone would have gone for that. In terms of the tyres that everyone has, most of the top 10 have varying levels of the amount of tyres that they have available. All the front running teams only have 3 sets of softs available, with the McLarens only having 1 set of medium, whereas everyone else has 2, and therefore they have 2 sets of hards, whereas everyone else has 1. The rest of the top 10 only have 4 softs, 1 medium, and 1 hard. As for the rest of the midfield, all of them have 1 set of hard. The majority of them have actually it's pretty split on the amount of mediums that they have. Everyone in Q2, everyone that made it to Q2 plus Bearman has 1 set of medium, and everyone else knocked out in Q1 has 2 sets of mediums. The majority of them then have 3 or 4 softs, depending on obviously if they have 1 medium, they have 4 softs. If they have 2 mediums, they have 3 softs. 5 and 4, not 3 and 4. That was accounting for used and new. All of them having at least 1 new set of soft, with Verstappen having 2, Behrman having 3, and Perez on 2 as well. And what does the weather look like? 0% chance of rain, 50% chance of safety car, 33% chance of a VSC, and 33% chance of a red flag. Obviously, red flag stat bumped up a little bit because of the wet races that we had in 2022. Under normal green flag situations, 22.7 second pit stop, and in a VSC or virtual safety car, I said the same thing. Under safety car stuff, 10.5 seconds. But that is that for the Saturday wrap up. It looks like it's going to be an interesting one in the race. It'll be fun to see whether they can overtake like Australia and China, or if it's low overtaking like previous seasons of Japan. Other than that, there's not much more to say, so hopefully it's a good one. But we'll find out. Bye.